What is the meaning of life? Why are we here? The biggest questions of all. The questions that have dogged the greatest minds for centuries. It makes me look up to the heavens in awe at our vast, magnificent universe and wonder at the possibilities of what life is all about. Join me on a journey to understand more about who we are, why we're here, and to discover more happiness, meaning, and purpose. What happens when we meet a really difficult person or situation, or someone is blaming us or criticizing us? We normally resist them and have some anger or fear. We get into the blame game. How can you talk to me like this? How can you behave like this? Why can't you change? We start complaining and blaming the other person. And this wastes our energy and makes us weak. But should we accept people as they are? Immediately, the mind says, I can't accept this person. How dare they speak to me like this? I'm not a doormat. Does acceptance mean being passive, being a victim of fate? Oh, whatever happens, happens. Acceptance to me is letting go of our resistance to what has already happened. It doesn't mean we approve of the situation. We're not saying that what happened was right and it was okay. Acceptance is just taking care of our own minds, our own well-being, because it's already happened. There's nothing we can do about it. Then from that place of acceptance, we can take dynamic action. So acceptance doesn't mean that we are passive, it means we are stronger with acceptance and we have more energy to deal with the situation. Emotions come up from the mind and influence the intellect. Now then, we often do one of two things. Either we don't like the emotion, which is uncomfortable, and we push it away and repress it. Or alternatively, we indulge the emotion and make the whole situation worse. This is where the intellect has become emotionally hijacked by the emotional mind. Acceptance is a state of mind which can help calm the emotional mind down and stops anger and fear from draining our energy. This is taking responsibility for our emotions. And with that strength of acceptance, we have better clarity on how to deal with the situation and take action using the body. When we encounter a personal situation, we normally react from our past conditionings. And then we say something or take an action based on these past conditionings. However, practicing acceptance is our self-effort, where we steer our kayak away from reacting in the same way as the past. Acceptance helps us to let go of our past conditionings, especially letting go of our strong desires and resistances. Reducing our conditionings helps the mind become calmer, less reactive, which makes it easier to accept future people and situations, and so on in a virtuous circle. This acceptance helps us to reduce the reactivity of our minds and get closer to our true blue nature. Now, of course, it's important to realise that acceptance doesn't mean that we stay in an unhealthy situation. For example, if a person or a situation is particularly toxic for our health or our well-being. For example, if we're being abused or bullied by someone. it might be important to take action to remove ourselves from that situation or person. What helps me to accept is realising that it's my own reaction. Sure, the other person might have triggered a reaction within me, but it's still my own responsibility. I need to recognise it and decide if I want my mind to stay upset. I'm responsible for my own emotional reactions. Now, why else could it be useful to accept people? Now, here's one of the secrets. I think people are more likely to change when they are deeply accepted. Think about it. Think about your own situation. We are probably more likely to make a change in our behaviour or the way we look at things if someone deeply accepts us first. What we resist persists. The moment that our energy shifts, when we change, it's more likely that the situation itself will change. Why don't we sometimes accept a person? It's our ego, our pride, which judges other people and makes judgments of right and wrong, and keeps blaming the other person. I'm right, they're wrong. Therefore, I'm justified in my anger. This is no way to behave. Now, this is a dangerous game, because it's us who suffer, not the other person. It's our mind that gets agitated by the constant emotion, because we're not prepared to accept what has already happened, and we're not taking responsibility for our own emotional reactions. What I find helps me here is forgiveness and compassion. Can we forgive and let go in order to better accept? And as we'll discover later in the film, we actually become what we focus on. We actually become more like the people that we resist or dislike because we keep thinking about them and their traits. So better to accept them and let it go. Developing compassion can be tricky. But what helps me is realizing that everyone has their faults, everyone has their drawbacks. People have good days and bad days. We all have them. People are doing the best that they can given their past conditionings, their habits. And they may also be trying to overcome their own habits. Can we look deeper and understand why people are the way that they are? And can we accept, maybe even love people despite their faults? Is that our growth? If we want to be more loving, are we just given that skill? Or are we given challenging situations where we have to show more love? It's interesting, isn't it, that we all want to be unconditionally loved by others, but we find it difficult to do that in return. I think we're all on a journey, from initially resisting people, to tolerating people, putting up with people, to accepting people, to then being compassionate towards people, and finally loving them. This is our self-effort. Finally, I want to add that this is also about self-acceptance and self-love. The most important form of acceptance is accepting and loving ourselves. And when we do that, it's easier to accept and love others. What you do to another, you do to yourself, because you and the other are one. So in summary, what helps me to accept people are the following. I need to save my own mind. It's easier to accept than not to accept. It's my own reaction. It's my responsibility. People are more likely to change if they're accepted. People have their own conditionings, their own drawbacks. Can we accept them for who they are? Is there a mistake that I have actually made from which I can learn? If I accept and love others more, it's easier for me to love and accept myself, and vice versa. If I can be centered through blame and criticism, I'm the one who becomes stronger. Maybe this whole world is just a play, a game, not to be taken so seriously. Now, what about accepting situations in our life? This also can be tricky. If I lose something, if something goes wrong in my life, is it then worth having the double whammy of losing my happiness as well? Does that make any sense? What helps me is realizing that life will irritate us. Things will go wrong. We won't always get what we want. So what do we want to do with that? Accept or resist? It's our choice. Some people say to me, hang on, if I just accept when things go wrong, then I won't act to change it. I won't be motivated. But as I mentioned before, we are accepting the situation as it is. We're emotionally accepting what has happened. And with that centered, calm mind of acceptance, we can then take more dynamic action. Some of the most dynamic people I know are also very centered and calm. And just when I think that I've learned to accept people or situations, another one comes into my life to challenge me again, to strengthen my level of acceptance. Now, what practical tool can we take away from today's video to help us accept? Well, let's practice a tool now with our eyes closed. Whenever we notice our minds resisting a personal situation, when we're feeling stressed or annoyed, we can simply smile at our dear beloved minds with compassion. Our minds are like an innocent child and we're the wise, loving adult. Feel that agitation wherever it is in your body right now. Take a slow, deep breath in with a smile. And as you breathe out, loosen your whole body and simply say, I accept and let go. We deeply choose to accept and let go of our resistance to what has already happened. And you can repeat this process a few times. Okay, so let's open our eyes now with a deep breath in. And let go. And this is a great tool to repeat during the day whenever you're feeling stressed. How are acceptance and surrender actually linked? Acceptance is something we do after a situation has already happened. Surrender is something that we are before the situation has even happened. Regular acceptance gradually results in living in surrender. Some people have an issue with letting go. They think that they are in control. They want a particular outcome. This is called doership. But what can we really control? We can't even control our own minds and bodies. We're not in control of the ups and downs of our lives, but we can choose to be free from our minds and dissolve the doer. Surrender means we're no longer fighting life, worrying, wanting, resisting. It doesn't mean a fatalistic, dejected attitude to life. Oh, I give up. Things are bad, I just give up. That's not surrender. Instead, it's saying, I let go. It's a positive sense of liberation. It means trusting and flowing with the ups and downs of life rather than being rigid. A cheerful acceptance of whatever happens, I can handle it, it will pass. This conserves our energy, which normally gets wasted worrying and resisting about what has already happened. I remember when I was ill with ME or chronic fatigue syndrome. At the time, I just wasn't accepting it. I was fighting the situation. I was causing myself more pain. I was constantly resisting what was happening to me. I had to go through the process of deep acceptance or surrendering it, just letting go and allowing whatever was happening to happen. Only then could I take stock of the situation and look for solutions. Now take this oak tree. When storms come, it's uprooted because it's so rigid. But the willow tree is flexible. It bends and flows with the wind. Be like a surrendered willow tree, not an oak tree. The secret is in not taking life so seriously, but instead seeing it all as a play. We can realize that things don't matter as much as we make them out to. So we can let go by realizing that in the grand scheme of things, compared to the vastness of time and space, our problems are small and momentary. The other secret to acceptance and surrender, which is one key to happiness, is realizing that there are 3 steps in our evolution. In the first step, we blame outside people and situations for our unhappiness. How can this person be like this? I can't believe that just happened to me. Everyone else is wrong. The world is bad. In this first stage, we almost feel like a victim of life's ups and downs. Compassion and forgiveness is key here. Compassion for others despite how they behave. The next stage of our evolution is when we become aware that it's not outside people and situations which are actually to blame. It's in fact our own minds, and that our own minds are our main cause of our distress. In this stage, we can start blaming ourselves and putting our own minds down for being like that. Oh, why am I like this? Why am I like that? This is where we need to have compassion for ourselves, to accept our minds for being a certain way and healing all parts of us with love. The third stage of our evolution is where we have both compassion for others and compassion for our own minds. In that is our freedom. And the next step is realizing that we are not our minds. Our minds are just a piece of equipment. That instead, at our deepest level, we are the blue consciousness. If there was one message that sums up surrender, it would be, nothing matters. What are you holding on to? Worries, fears, desires, attachments. Let go and see. You are made up of bliss and love. Rest and revel deep in yourself. People often surrender to something bigger than themselves that represents love. For some, this is a figure from their religion or tradition. For others, it's the universe or the one consciousness, or someone they just feel loved by, or even just a beautiful nature scene. You can surrender to anybody that makes you feel loved and reassured. It means feeling like you are being taken care of, that you don't need to worry. Like a child feels when their mother is around. Everything will be okay. Trusting in life, not taking it so seriously. We are all deeply loved by that one consciousness. There is a grander plan going on here than we can possibly imagine. So even when a difficult situation comes along, even ahead of time, the mind is prepared to accept. This is real faith. And when we accept and surrender to life's ups and downs, profound compassion and love dawn within us. Acceptance is not being passive, but conserving our mental energy so we can take dynamic action. Acceptance helps us to reduce our conditionings by reducing the cycle of action and reaction. If we act in a spirit of acceptance and surrender, existing conditionings are removed and no new conditionings are formed. What we resist persists. When we accept and let go, the personal situation is more likely to change. People are doing the best that they can, given their own conditionings, their own faults. So let's see if we can accept them or even love them just the way they are. Rather than feeling like a victim, we can take responsibility for our moods and our emotions. Self-acceptance and self-love are just as important as loving others. Can we practice forgiveness and compassion towards others and ourselves? Living in surrender means to trust and flow with the ups and downs of life, and realizing that events happen for our growth. Whatever happens in our life, there are pluses and minuses. What we think is bad now may be something more positive in the future. So this can help us accept and let go of people and situations right now. It is worth watching this video whenever we feel agitated, until living in surrendered gratitude for our life becomes a habit. We can practice the surrender and acceptance tool in the following way. Whenever we become aware that our mind is getting agitated by people or situations, we can smile at our dear beloved minds with compassion. Then we can take a slow deep breath in with a smile and say, I accept and let go as we breathe out. You can change the words to suit you. And as we breathe out, we can really feel that acceptance. And we may choose to surrender and let go to a figure that represents love. We can trust that we really are being taken care of. And also that this too will pass. We can continually repeat this process until our minds can let go.